Hey guys, and welcome to part 1 of creating an animal AI. Today we're going to start setting up the basic movement, so setting up running away, walking, random roam, and starting to decide what action the deer or the animal wants to do next. And I say deer because that's what I'm creating personally. It's a deer, but this should work with any animal that you choose. So I've got a link in the description down below to all of the project files which I'm using for this, which includes links to the animal models and animations, as well as all of the sound effects as well. So there's a link to the animal variety pack, which is what we're using. If I open that up, I'm going to be using the deer, stag, and doe because it's a deer doe. So if I open that up and then I go to meshes, you see this is what we have here. So we've got our deer doe, which is what I'm going to be using today and in this series, which looks like this, and it's fully animated as well. Looks great. So let's close that. And what we want to do first is we want to create our blueprint for this animal. So I'm just going to stay in the deer, stag, and doe folder here, right click, go to blueprint class, and I'm going to create a character. And this is just so that we have the character movement in here as well, just so it makes it look a bit better, more realistic, and it's easier to handle. I'm just going to name this one Deer Doe BP. Apparently I already have that, so I'll name it New Deer Doe BP, because I still have my old one which I made before when creating this code, but you can obviously name it absolutely whatever you like. And then we're going to open it up straight away. In here, we just want to set up the basic visuals. So we're going to select our mesh, and if you don't have that because you created just a pawn, you can add a component and add a skeletal mesh. Inside of this, we want to add our skeletal mesh, which for me is the deer doe. Again, put in any animal you want. I'm going to rotate it to face forwards, which is 90 degrees on the Z, minus 90, and I'm going to move it down so it's touching the floor as well. I'm going to leave the scale the same, but like I said, I'm just going to move it down. And if I just turn off snapping, I can be more precise with where I'm moving it. And I found about minus 87 was good with what I did before. So I think that's going to be good there. So now it's perfectly on the ground. Turn snapping back on. You can see the capsule component, so the collision, isn't perfect for this deer. So what I'm going to do is select the capsule component, and we're going to just increase the capsule radius. Now for me in this model, 88 and 88 for the half height and radius seems to work really well. But obviously you can customize this to get it more perfect for you and the animal which you're using, or you can just get rid of it if you want, but I'd recommend keeping it in. So this is what I've got now. I've got my deer set up with the visual and the capsule component collision working as well. So we compile and save that. Then we want to leave this open, but just minimize it, and we want to start creating the animation blueprint. So we're going to already start animating it. So by the end of this episode, we should have it moving about with the animations. So we're going to right click in the same folder. I'm going to go to animation, and then I'm going to get an animation blueprint, selecting the skeleton we want, which is for me the deer doe. So select the skeleton you're using, hit OK. I'm going to name this one New Deer Doe Anim BP, like so. Opening that up straight away. In here we have our anim graph. What I'm going to do is right click and add a state machine. I'm going to name this one Locomotion SM for state machine, connecting that into the result there. And I'm going to double click the state machine to open it up. Out of the entry, I'm going to drag out and add a state, naming this one basic movement, as I'm going to have all of this in just one blend space, so I need one thing in here. We don't need to create a state machine because I'm just using one state. However, I'm doing it just so you can easily adapt and build onto it if you want. So you could have idle, walking, jumping, all of that good stuff which you'd want. So again, that's what I'm doing in here, so it's easy for you to build on. Then we're going to double click that to open it up, and this is where we're going to put our blend space, which obviously we need to make. So let's do that now. So we're going to compile, save this, and minimize it. And then I'll do this in the animations folder here. So you see we have all of these great animations. What I'm going to do is just rename this one to old, because that's again from when I made it previously. So I'm going to right click, go to animation, go to blend space. Again, selecting it for the correct skeleton. I'm going to name this one New Movement BS for blend space, opening that up straight away. Now you can see we have this blend space in here. What I'm going to do is change the horizontal axis name to direction, setting the minimum value as minus 180 and the maximum value as 180, leaving everything else the same. The vertical axis I'm going to name speed, the minimum value at 0, maximum value as 300, because I want the fastest this animal can go to is speed of 300. Set that to be whatever you want. So if you want this to be even slower or even faster, just change that value. But again, that's just the maximum speed the animal is going to go to. Then we want to start putting in our animations on this. So in the bottom right, we can go to Asset Browser, and we have all these animations here. The bottom row, so speed 0, we're we want to put our idle. So if we just search for idle, we can get our idle breathe, which I want to put in there. So idle breathe is going to be on all of those. And now you can see the deer should be breathing idly. So that works perfectly. Now our deer is idle breathing like that. Next, we want to have walking, which is going to be in this middle line here. So I now search for walk. I'm going to get deer doe walk in the middle there. If we hold left shift, we can move this green cursor over it. Now you can see it's walking. Now I'm going to put left and right turns in there as well. We're not going to actually be using those in this series unless we want to do that later on. However, right now I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to set it up though to show you how to put it in, so you can do that yourself as well. So I'm just going to get turn L, put it on the left. You can see it's doing that. Turn R, put it on the right. So now it's going to do this as well if we wanted to set that up. And on the top, we're just going to get run. There isn't a run left or right, just a run forward. So that's going to go on the top one there, and that's what it's going to look like when it's running away. So this is now our animation blend space perfectly set up from idle to walk to run, like so. So I'm going to save that, and then we can close it. Back in our animation blueprint, in this locomotion state machine basic movement state, we're going to drag and drop in our new movement blend space we just created, connecting the result in there, and you can see we have direction and speed input values, because they're the names of the axes we just created. So we need to calculate the direction and speed to input in here. So that's very simple. We're going to go to the event graph of the animation blueprint. Also, one thing, we need to open up our blend space again. I just forgot to do one tiny thing. Open it back up so you can just double click it there. And down here under the target weight interpolation speed per sec, we're going to change it from 0 to 5, or you can put it as 5, 10, whatever you like. This just makes the transition of the animations look a little bit smoother and a little bit nicer for us. So it doesn't just toggle between them and snap, it's going to nice and smoothly transition. So now we can close out, as that's what we need to do in there. Again, in this event graph, we want to be calculating the direction and speed. So we're going to come out of try get pawn owner here, which you should have by default, and we're going to get velocity. The return value of the get velocity, we're going to get a vector length, and this is just going to simply give us the speed of the AI in a float value. We can right click that float, promote to variable, naming this one speed. And now we've calculated the animal's speed for whenever it's moving. Now the direction is just as simple. We can come out of the get velocity again and calculate direction. The base rotation, we're going to come out of try get pawn owner and then get actor rotation, and that's going to go straight into the base rotation there. Very simple. Right click the return value, promote to variable, name this one direction, and now we've calculated both the speed and direction of our animal AI. So whenever this blueprint updates, which is whenever it's playing an animation, what we're going to do is try get the pawn owner, which is going to be the owner of the animation blueprint, so the deer, get its velocity, change that into a float speed, and then we're also going to use that and the axis rotation to calculate the direction it's currently facing and going in. So we compile and save that, and you can see that's now firing off, so it's already calculating the speed and direction of this AI. So obviously it's not doing anything yet because we don't even have one placed in the level and we're not playing the game. However, you can see that it's already doing that, like so. So this will just be 0 and 0. Now we can go back to our basic movement state here and input those values. So we can get direction by drag and dropping in, connecting into direction, doing the same for speed. Get speed, connecting into there. So now our deer should have basic movement set up for being idle, walking, and running. So we compile and save that. And that should be our animation blueprint set up. So again, this is all I'm really going to do in here. You can advance upon this further down the line if you want, and I might do the same thing as well, but I'm just going to get through these 7 episodes which I've planned out first, and then do any further improvements afterwards. So we can close that animation blueprint like so. Back in our animal blueprint, we're going to select the mesh again, and we're going to change the animation. So we've got animation mode is use animation blueprint. The anim class, we want to be the animation blueprint we just made, which for me I named new deer doe anim BP. We can compile that, and you can see this is now using the correct animations, which at the moment will just be our idle animation, which works perfectly like so. So now we're going to go to the event graph of this blueprint to set up all the different code we want in here. So I'm going to delete begin overlap and event tick, but keep begin play if we want to use that later on. And underneath this, I'm just going to right click, add a custom event, naming this one decide next action. And what I'm going to do on here is add an input, naming this skip delay question mark, leaving that as a boolean like so. That will make more sense later on when we come back to it, We just need to make this custom event so we can reference it in our next line of code, but we need to do the next line of code to finish this action off. So again, I'll explain that a lot more later on when we actually get to using it, but make sure you add a custom event with an input of skip delay, which is a boolean. So now let's set up the random roam for our AI. So just underneath this, I'm going to go down, right click, add a custom event once again, naming this random roam. What I'm going to do after this is set the speed. So I'm going to come out of character movement, so drag and drop that in, come out of this, and set max walk speed. And this is the speed we want the AI to be at when it's walking. So I want that to be 150, which is a good speed I found for the animations earlier. But again, you can change this to be whatever you like. And since we're doing that, we want to select the character movement again, set the max walk speed in here to be the same. So for me, that's 150. Again, set it to whatever you want. I'm going to close that. After this, we want to come out of this and get an AI move to, like so. The little white box next to it. The pawn is going to be get a reference to self, so it's moving this AI. The destination, we're going to come out of this and get random reachable point in radius, like so. I'll move this out a little bit. And the origin is just going to be get actor location. You can set that to be whatever you like. This is just a radius around this point is how far the AI can move from. So if you want this to be a certain point in the map, you can set that. If you want it to be 0, 0, 0 in the map, use that. But I just want it to be from wherever the deer currently is. And the radius, again, you can set up to whatever you want. I'm going to put it as 1500. If you have a bigger map, you might want to increase this. If you have a smaller map, you might want to decrease this. But 1500 works well for me. So it's just going to roam in a small area. But obviously, the more it moves, the bigger this is going to get because it's going to different points on the map. Everything else we can leave the same. And on success of this AI move to, we're going to decide next action, which is a custom event we just made. And again, skip delay is there. So the skip delay is essentially we're going to have a delay on the start of the decide next action. So it will finish its current task, wait a certain amount of seconds, and then do its next task. If you don't want it to wait, tick that delay there. If you do want it to wait, don't tick it. So essentially it's going to walk, stop, wait, walk. If you don't want it to wait and you want it to just go walk, stop, walk, stop, walk, stop instead, then tick skip delay. Again, when we actually create that code, I'll explain it more later on. So what I'm going to do is now just select this and hit C to comment it, naming this random roam. And then what I'm going to do is now create the code for running away. So underneath this, I'm going to right click, add another custom event, naming this run away. This is going to be very, very similar, but just modifying it a bit. So since it's going to be similar, we can just copy all of this code. So select it all, hit Control C, hit Control V to paste it down here, and connect it in, and then we'll just change what we need to. So the max walk speed, I obviously want to increase as we're making it run faster. So I want the max walk speed to be 600. Now you can set this to be whatever you like, compile and save that, but for me I found that 600 is a good speed for it running away. So since I had 150 as walking, you can set the running to 300. And in the animation blend space, I did also set the max to be 300, but that doesn't matter too much because obviously 600 is greater than 300, so it will still play the same animation, and it made doing the maths in there a little bit easier. However, obviously, customize that to be whatever you like once again, and if you feel the need that you want to change the blend space to fit this, you can do, but it doesn't make a difference. And again, this can be as high or as low as you want. And the only other difference we're going to make here, after that, is this radius. We don't want to be a fixed value of 1500. Obviously, you can have it as that if you want, but I'd recommend increasing it to something a lot bigger because when the deer is going to run away, it wants to run away properly. So it's not just going to run 10 meters away because then obviously it's still within danger. We want to have it run a lot further, so increase that. I want to keep it a bit random as well, so I'm going to come out of the radius and get a random float in range. So obviously as well, that is going to be random anyway because it's a random point in that radius. But I want it to be random between two radiuses. So if I put that as 1500, it could go between 1 or 1500. I want it to be, for example, 1500 and 2000. Again, I want to pick a much larger number than that, but I'm just keeping them small to explain it. So instead of going from their current location to their max radius, we want to go from a minimum to maximum radius. And I hope that makes sense to you. So again, because it's running away, we want it to actually run away and leave the area. So the minimum value I'm going to set as 20,000, and the maximum I'm going to set as 30,000. Again, customize that to get whatever you like, lower or raise them for how you want. But when I was testing out the code earlier and I was creating it, I found that these values were good for me. But again, do whatever you want. If you haven't got a massive map, maybe don't do these ones. But this just means it's going to properly run away from the player. Everything else, again, we keep the same. So that's done. So we can comment that by selecting it, hitting C. And I'm going to name this one Run Away. Now for this one, I am going to tick skip delay, because if the AI wants to run away, they're not going to just stand still and wait 3 seconds and then continue running. They're going to continue running if they need to. So once they finish running to their destination, they're going to check to see if they still want to run away. If they do, they're going to immediately continue running. So that just makes that a little bit more realistic there. But for random roam, I can imagine they would wait with a delay instead of just continually walking forever. So I think that's good for me. Again, do whatever you want. I'm going to compile and save that. Then the final part of this video is we're just going to finish off this decide next action here. So this custom event we've made and we've been calling, we're going to set that up. So we're going to hold down B and left click to get a branch, connecting that in there with the condition of skip delay. Because again, we want to check to see if the AI wants to skip this delay or not. If it's true, so if they do, we're going to do something in a minute. But if they don't, we're going to do something else. So we're going to hold down D and left click to get a delay, connecting this into false. So if they don't want to skip the delay, they're going to do the delay. The duration of this delay, we're going to get a random integer in range. So let's not drag out of that, sorry. We're going to get a random integer in range, connecting that into the duration, and it will get an integer to float there. The reason I'm not doing a random float in range is because I don't want it to be between 1 and 2 and have 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 as well. I just want it to be either 1 or 2. I'm not going to be using those values. That's again just an example. The actual values I'm going to have are a minimum of 1, maximum of 5, so it will wait between 1 and 5 seconds before doing something else, which again I think is going to work perfectly for me. After this, we're going to hold down B, left click to get another branch, connecting that to completed. The condition in this wants to be something that we're going to create in a second. However, the true of the first branch now wants to go into the second branch as well. I'm going to double click that to get some reroute nodes, and as you can see, this is simply skipping the delay. So if skip delay is true, it's just going to go straight past the delay. If it's false, it's going to go through the delay as well, which again is going to work perfectly for us. I'm just going to straighten that up like so, and this is good. So now we can either use or skip that delay if we want it. Now you can obviously just set the delay to 0 if you'd like instead. However, I think this is just a little bit better for me. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a boolean. So I'm going to hit the plus variable down here. I'm going to name this one should run ? And as you can tell, this is obviously going to detect if the AI should run away or not. I'm going to compile that, default value as false. I'm going to create all the other booleans we're going to make in this decide next action as well. So hit the plus variable again. This one is going to be is hungry ? So obviously if the AI is hungry, compile, default value is false. Another variable, this one is tired ? Compile, default value is false. What we're going to do now is this branch we just made with no condition at the moment. The condition is going to be should run. So if the AI should run. Out of true, so if it should, we're going to call function run away. So if it should run, it's going to run. False, we want to check something else. So we're going to hold down B, left click to get another branch, connect that to false. The condition of this is going to be is hungry. So if it's hungry, it's then going to stop and eat. We're going to set that code up in a future video. False, we're going to check again. So hold down B, left click to get another branch. The condition of this one is going to be is hungry. So if it's hungry, it's then going to stop and eat. So again, that's what this decide next action does, is it simply just is the AI telling the code what it needs to do. So if it wants to run away, if it wants to eat, if it wants to sleep, or if it just wants to carry on roaming normally. And then finally, false of this one, we're going to call function random roam. So if it doesn't want to run away, it's not hungry, and it's not tired, we're just going to random roam. So I've noticed I've done something wrong here. This final one here, I've accidentally put hungry again. That's meant to be is tired. I think I just dragged in the wrong one, but said the right thing. So again, that's is tired. So this should now work for us. So like I say, we're going to decide the next action, skip a delay if we need to or not. If we want to run, it's going to run. Same with hungry and tired, it's going to do that if they need to. And if we don't want to do any of those, we're just going to random roam like normal. Final thing, off of event begin play up here, we just want to call function decide next action. So when we first start the game, it's going to do what it needs to. I'm not going to tick skip delay as I want it to take that delay as well. So if we compile, minimize this, we can test to see if this works. So I'm going to drag in this deer here. I'm going to hit play and see what happens. So I can get in, you see it there, it had the delay, and now it's starting to walk around. So it had random roam, it's walking, wherever it stops, it's then going to have a delay, and then continue roaming as everything else is false, not hungry, not tired, doesn't want to run away. So it's got a delay between 1 and 5 seconds, and it's going to continue on its path. Now if that's not working for you, there's one thing that you're missing in your map, which is a nav mesh bounds. So sorry, I forgot to mention that. But what you want to do is in the place actors in the top left, search for nav mesh bounds volume, drag and drop it in, and then set the scale to be however big you want it to be. So as you can see, mine's 10,000 because I've got it for the whole size of this map, but customize it to the size that you want it to be. So that is how you then allow an AI to move. So we set up random roam and know that works. Let's also check to see if the running away part works. So just for a test, I'm going to set the default value to be true, so that way it is going to run away, and then we can see if it works. So it should run further away with the correct animation and faster, and it also shouldn't skip the delay once it runs away. Again, just for testing, I'm going to lower these values between 1500 and 2000, just so it doesn't run too far away and it doesn't take too long. Again, that's just for testing. The actual game, I'll leave it as the values I had before. So let's hit play and test this out. So what it should do is it should now run away. So you see it's running away perfectly like so. It stopped there and it continued on immediately. So as soon as it stops, it continues running. And again, this isn't running very far, which is why we've kept the values low. But maybe you want them to be this low so it continues like this. However, again, customize it to however you like. However, this works perfectly for us. So I'm going to put those back up to what they were before. And then I'm also going to untick should run there. So I think that'll be it for this video. We've done everything we want to do. We've set it up so we have random roam, running away, and deciding whether or not we want to do random roam, run, stop to eat, or sleep as well. That's actually one thing. I'm just going to select this and name this decide next action. And then this will be set up blueprint, like so. I just like to keep things commented so they're easy, nice, and neat. And also the next episode will be coming out very soon. Again, links in the description below for the Trello board as well, where you can keep up to date with the progress of this, and then also my Discord server and other places like that. And again, this works perfectly, so we go in, it's going to roam, run away, whatever we want, with or without a delay, depending on what we set. So thanks so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed and I hope you found it helpful, and if you did, make sure to like and subscribe down below. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.